Welcome to Connection Artist, the podcast for building better relationships by design. Love and human connection are fundamental needs for all of us, but how do we cultivate lasting, emotionally healthy, fulfilling relationships with ourselves and others? I'm Luca, and I invite you to join me in meeting everyday people with diverse backgrounds and ages who all have one thing in common: a genuine passion for fostering meaningful connections. You'll hear their heartwarming stories and practical advice for building lasting marriages, lifelong friendships, and self-love. In this season 1, we sit down with 10 couples, learn how they met, and hear the secrets behind how they've built lasting marriages. Their insights will inspire and enlighten you. I also interview guests who found and maintained warm, lasting friendships for decades, and they're sharing how they did it. And lastly, we can't forget the importance of growing a loving relationship with ourselves, so we discuss building self-love and confidence. I've brought together a fantastic lineup of guests for you to meet who will share their unique stories and invaluable communication and relationship advice. Together, we're learning the secrets to building more meaningful, fulfilling relationships, one conversation at a time. I'm Luca, and I invite you to join me in becoming a connection artist.
Okay, what's the only thing
Here we go.
that elephants...
It's like we're going to one
what's
each
the
other.
only thing that elephants have, right?
You're asking me?
Why are you looking at her?
What's the only thing that elephants have that
Nothing. No other animals.
no
have.
other animals have?
I want to say a trunk.
Tusks.
Baby elephants.
Oh, shit. Why did they laugh at that one? All right. Okay. Shit. All right.
Okay, hold on. We can do this all night long.
Right.
But I do want to introduce the audience, the listening audience, to two couples here, two fantastic couples. We have Susan and Dave.
You remember.
And we have
Sorry.
Nancy and Brian. I'm so bad with names. And even though I've practiced their names so many times.
We'll have name tags.
Next
right?
time. But Nancy and Brian are together, and then Susan and Dave are together. We happen to be neighbors. I met them. Well, I've met you guys casually at some social events. But yesterday we started talking about relationships, and I was like, I have wanted to start a podcast about relationships for ages, and I think it would be very valuable for especially millennials, people just newly getting married in their 20s and 30s, or thinking about it, or just wanting to build more meaningful relationships in their life. What are the keys to success to make that happen? And these two couples have been married for over 20 plus years, which you'll hear about. And it seems like we need more role models when it comes to healthy relationships. Not all of us.
Role model.
Role models, yeah. Role models, when at least not everyone grows up in a household with two parents, so they don't see what it takes to have a partnership. And not everyone, they see the social media aspects of what a relationship could or should look like. That's highlight reels and perfect. But in their own relationship, when they compare, they're like, well, I don't have that. There must be something wrong with my partner, my relationship. I'm not satisfied because I'm comparing to what I believe relationships should be, or how happy other people are in comparison to what I am. So I just wanted to share in interviews today, but also moving forward, the realities of what relationships look like, and also how to have healthy, lasting, happy relationships that work, and the realities of what that entails. So that's what we're here to talk about. We have a few questions that we'll be going through, but we're just going to keep it a casual conversation, see what happens.
Okay.
And yeah.
Good.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Ready. Yeah.
Was that too formal? That was too formal.
But
You're
that's
all
okay.
good. You're all good.
Okay.
We're going to influence like another generation. Do I have to sign a waiver for this?
Yeah, no, it's not that serious.
Set it up right now.
It's not that serious. You can't give wrong advice. It's going to you guys just being in your relationships and having the proof is in the pudding kind of a thing. You've made it work, and so many people would.
Well,
And what works here for us might not work for them.
That's
but
true.
They can figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's everyone's relationships and circumstances are different, but totally at least different. To have to talk about certain things, how important conflict resolution might be, and how important compromise or other things are. I think.
You know, when I heard you mention that, the thought came to my mind that we learn from others, and so my parents were children of the Depression, and so I just know that for both of them, times were tough. I don't know what tough means, but they were difficult for them growing up. But my dad would kiss my mom in front of anybody, in front of my sister and I, and at family gathering. He was always kissing her. I don't remember my aunts and uncles doing that, but he always showed how he felt.
That's wild.
And he was willing to do that in public.
I don't think I ever saw my mom and dad kiss.
And I'm not sure that generation that was
They didn't show
the
much
norm.
affection. No,
I don't think so.
But you do that now.
That's a good role model for you then.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
I like that.
Nothing wrong with that. No, I mean,
Let's keep it PG-13, but thank you. No, just kidding. It was so sweet.
Yeah, but
That's a good time to talk about ages.
You know, but that's a good point though about like showing affection for each other. I mean, but that's how does that build over time or
well, you know, I saw it, so for me it's just an easy thing to do because it's an accepted value that I grew up with,
Right.
and it's okay to do that. If you love someone, it's okay to kiss them.
And you said you didn't see it in your
I didn't
family,
see it once.
but you're very, very affectionate, and the same thing in my family.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So somehow we knew that was important to
Gets
us,
the
even though we
values.
didn't see it.
Yeah, so showing affection, I like that's an interesting point of view that you just. I mean, because like I say, I wasn't influenced by that, but I feel the same way you do about it right now. You know, like I mean, that's important.
Well, then kiss her.
We have the elevator kiss, and then we wondered if they have cameras.
Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. See.
Okay, I want to hear about your elevator kiss because
no.
we do the same
it's
thing.
just a thing.
Oh, you do? Yes.
Yeah.
So-
well, we think we're on cam. Okay, we
The
think
other
we're being
night,
sneaky.
I saw
right?
all those
Concierge.
the cameras at the front desk.
I didn't know. Yeah.
And I could see they can see the garage and all around. And I said, by the way, do you have cameras on the elevator? And Sonia said, I can't tell you. And I go, well, then you must.
Yeah. No,
But that's all we do is the elevator kiss.
It's just the kiss.
It's just the kiss.
Well, that's
because we think Big Brother's watching you.
And do you
So,
wait, like you're
stick
watching
to
to
it.
see when the doors close, and as soon as they're closed, you have to kiss?
It's not a timed thing
Yeah,
at all.
no,
But the doors are closed when we do.
It's like a game.
See, no, like, okay. We are so off track.
You guys are
All right,
trying to
no,
be
this
like
wasn't
sneaky.
the question.
Okay, hold on. So we'll first start with.
Back it up. Okay, and cut. All right. So,
We're gonna come back and introduce a little bit of the background. So the names, give us your age, how long you've been married. Is this your first marriage or not your first marriage? And do you have kids together? The very basics. So I'll let you start. Dave and Susan.
You're deferring to me.
Yes.
Yeah, I am 67, and it's not my first marriage.
Okay.
And we have 12 years between us. So that's one of our relationship realities is that age difference. And we have 4 children between us. He has 2. I have 2. And so, that is an element of our relationship and marriage. We've been married 25 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we met at work. So
Okay.
That's, that is part of, I think, being friends first before you figure out who you want to be with. And we both went through divorces, and the timing was such that we met later after those, and we were friends to begin with because we had worked together, and so it was easy to talk to each other. So, and that's always been. I think one of the things that's been good for us is that we can talk to each other and have conversations about just about anything. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like being able to just talk and before all of the internet and smartphones and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we had to meet up with each other, and can you just even hold on to a conversation? Without everybody's got to be hanging onto their phones and checking Twitter all the time. But can you just have a conversation over a cup of coffee? You know, if it's easy, then, you know, you're onto something. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, and I think that takes another deeper shovel here, is that comes from respect.
Oh, sure.
You know, if you have respect, then you can have the conversation, and then I think there's a piece in that says the focus isn't on just me in that conversation.
Right.
The focus has to be on us in the conversation, and when, for us anyway, the conversation could be about us, it was easier to talk. Or if I had something that I was trying to figure out, it was easier to say, what do you think? And she was open to give me feedback.
Yeah.
And likewise. So I think that's probably a respectful kind of thing.
And the communication skills there are important, and you learn about them as you get to know each other.
Yeah, and we
What
both
works
had
for you.
careers where we talked to people that we didn't know all the time. So in doing that, there was probably some built-in comfort to say, let's have this conversation.
I think you mentioned something, Brian, though, that's important, and that is the ease of the conversations.
Yeah.
You know, I think of any relationship with people, whether it's the person you're married to, or friends you've known for years, or work colleagues. You have some that it's just easier to talk to them.
Yeah.
And it's not forced, because you can naturally be in a room with them, and you feel that in their presence, and so you can have that dialogue. I think that's critical in relationships, because if you're going down a path where you can't have
But developing
ease
the
in
relationship.
conversations,
yeah,
then
you-
there's probably a flag there.
yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
An ease to the conversation
It's
is
gotta-
what develops the
mean, that-
relationship.
Yeah.
That was like
what
our first
point-
date. You know, I mean, like, we walked around Lake Harriet, you know, and it was just like, can you hold on to a conversation for an hour? You know, we didn't have technology bothering us all the time, but it was interesting conversation, and you want to kind of learn a little bit more about each other and stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's a critical part of it.
It is a
Can you
big-
just put the technology aside and just talk? You know, I mean, that's
So I've got a question, because there are some people that when they're starting to date someone, they'll even make like excuse themselves, like, oh, you know what, I'm terrible on first dates, or it takes me a while to warm up to people. For you guys, was it just for first time you met, it was very easy, or was it a gradual comfort building process before you could have easy, free flowing conversation? Because there are some people who again argue like, maybe they're just socially awkward, I'm not sure, but some of them, or maybe it could be just incompatible communication styles, but sometimes you meet people or go on dates and then they kind of want a longer runway to get comfortable with you, to have conversation. Or is that just a sign that no, that person's probably not for you, because you can't have conversation right out of the gate that's free-flowing and comfortable? I have my own thoughts on that,
Yeah,
but I'm
but
curious what your
I
thoughts are.
don't think initially that. I think that it takes time to have the free-flowing, comfortable.
that part of it.
But you'll sense right away whether you can have it with that person or not.
Yeah,
You don't have to dive deep into subjects the first few times you're together.
Yeah.
But you can tell that if they're open to doing that or not.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember just wanting to get to know you, you know, I mean, like, so the conversation was just like an interaction of like who you are, who I am, that sort of thing. And, well, you know, like...
And do you want to...
See me again?
Right. Do you want to keep going and
Second
try...
date.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just see how it develops.
Or do you
Score,
think
second date.
after you've had that time together, do you walk away? You go home and you think, oh, next time I want to ask them this, or oh, I wish we would have talked about that. And so those thoughts are coming into your head, or is it a situation where you're just kind of like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk
Yeah.
about? Because I think that's an indicator. If you can start generating more questions that
Yeah.
you want to ask the next time you're with that person, I think it is helpful to know that, oh, I must feel comfortable enough that I'm thinking ahead to
Oh,
what
sure.
this might be. And it's more than that little checklist of, oh, I have to get through my list. It's more of, oh gosh, I bet this would be fun to talk about with them.
Yeah.
And see.
For me personally, when I've gone on dates with people, if I wasn't like excited at the thought of talking to them again, a lot of them will just excuse themselves and say, oh, you know, I just get first date jitters or whatever. But if it felt like I was pulling teeth or I was really scratching my mind to figure out how do I get this person talking, because there's a lot of awkward silence here, whatever, like I usually just move on to someone else. But because ideally, like you guys found, I'm also I've also valued people who are just very natural to converse with from the get-go, because I tend to be a more like outgoing person, so I want someone with that same kind of personality. So,
Sure. Yeah,
and you can kind of tell, like from the first conversation, are they outgoing or more introverted?
But don't be afraid of opposites attract.
People say that.
It's true.
So we took some of those Myers-Briggs types.
Yeah, personality,
tests,
things like that.
and we are on opposite ends of the spectrum. So that is an opposites attract kind of thing.
Okay.
Because he's an extrovert, he likes to perform, he's out there, and I'm not like that at all.
Okay.
My energy is inside, internal. So opposites can attract and do okay. Not always.
Yeah.
But, I think maybe if you're both the same way, exactly, that might be hard too.
That might be harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to
So
know.
I'll just introduce a word called complementary.
There you go.
Do our interests, skills, abilities, because I have some experience with Myers-Briggs as well, do they complement each other? They don't have to be the same, but where I might have one strength or skill in our relationship to the bigger world,
Yeah.
she can complement me on some of the things that I don't do well. And, well, maybe there was once that I complimented you.
Well, yeah, man. Like, I can't
Absolutely.
balance a checkbook, but I leave it to her.
Brian's not a detail guy.
I-
He's
yeah,
a
I
big
freely
picture
admit it.
kind of guy.
Yeah.
This
I do
guy
all the details.
has cleaning bathrooms and doing dishes down to a science. I don't do it.
OCD, man. Is that really?
It's like, it's not my thing. I don't have an interest or a desire.
Couldn't give a shit, right?
That's the problem.
Well, yeah. That's a problem for you, man.
Somebody had to jump in and solve the
Just
problem.
admit it, okay? Yeah, like I don't.
but it is
we got a word for that. It's called an EFQ, all right? So
Remind me again, how many years, Susan and Dave, have you guys been married?
We've been married 25 years in January.
25 years. Okay,
That's
and
a great milestone.
that's actually what kicked off our conversation yesterday. Was they were talking about their anniversary trip that they're taking, and then I started asking them a bunch of questions about their background, and then 2 hours later, no. So and then now,
and you
over
haven't
to
introduced us yet.
Nancy and Brian.
Yeah.
Would you like to share about your background? Well,
Nah, we're past that.
like how long have you guys been together? What are your
Okay.
ages? How long have you guys been
I know
together?
this. I know the answer to that. 32 years.
that we've been together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 32 years.
But it took us a long time to get married.
Okay.
So between 9 and 10 years, we were together before we got married.
I was
But
on a
we were-
try it before you buy it babe.
So you were together 32 years or married
No,
for 32?
we were together 10 years,
Okay.
then we got married, and now we've been together for 32 years. So
Yeah.
we've been married since 2001.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I was never married. I waited a very long time. Brian had been married before and has a child. She's in her early 40s now.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay.
yeah. So
Older than you.
Brian's 64, I'm 68.
Okay. Okay.
Almost 69.
Okay.
And we met because we were going to be at a party where we had mutual friends who set us up without us knowing it.
Yeah.
So he approached me, and we were in a different city than where we lived, and he called me after I got home, and we just got together for a walk and dinner.
A walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. here we are, 30. That was
And he still had some things to work out. You
Yeah.
know, he was finalizing a divorce, and I wasn't thrilled about that. So I kind of kept him at arm's length. You know, like, okay, we can see where this goes, but you get all that taken care of before we go any further.
I had baggage.
How long was your first marriage?
Okay, like 9 years, something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So
I was gonna say it was like 3 years, but
it lasted a little longer.
dragged out. Yeah. Okay, I shouldn't. Okay, but yeah.
I have so many other questions that I could ask about that, but I will not.
Yeah,
Because, really quickly, I do hear that comment a lot of people who their marriages do end, and when I ask them how long you guys were together, they kind of have a similar type of response where it's like, really, they were only in the relationship emotionally or whatever for a certain period of time, but it was kind of on the outs for so many more years after that.
Yeah.
Why do people stay? Is it mostly for the kids that they stay together, or why do you think
Who
that?
knows? You know, you're trying to make it work.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't right from the start. I mean, it was that starter relationship marriage.
Starter marriage?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, I think there's a ton of people could talk about that.
I think there's maybe a financial component that keeps them
that's true.
together longer than
Yeah.
they might, especially if the children are very young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a kid, and
Still in school.
still going to college and all that, and making it work. But
So a lot of external factors, it sounds like, is why some people kind of hold on to marriages longer, because of external factors like finances or kids or
There's a-
combination.
there's
probably.
a ton of factors
Yeah.
affecting it all. But like, are you going to tough it out? This is a little bit of a struggle. Are you going to tough it out, or does somebody just decide like, I'm done? That's plays right into it. So.
How did you know after that marriage that you were ready to date again? Because some people, when they come out of even long-term dating,
I was ready.
well, because even people who break up it's always cautionary when you meet someone who's just coming out of a serious relationship, even on the dating scene. If someone's been with someone for 2-3 years, they're just coming off of it. Usually, they're kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of wanting to play the field a little bit.
Well, and that was something I said to him, are you sure you don't want to be out there for a while and not make any commitment here? Because I didn't want to get involved in any of this if he wasn't ready to do that. And he seemed ready
Yeah.
For a 32-year commitment with you at that time.
so far.
And counting. Yeah, man.
It's either a 32-year commitment or nothing at all. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean,
No, we were kind of, no, we weren't ever during that time, during those 9 to 10 years. There was settling in, and there was learning about each other and the whole what you need to know, communication, and work that out and all of that. And then we had, a younger child involved too.
you became a stepmom. Out of nowhere.
And so that has its own set of challenges because she was living with us.
Yeah.
And so we were living as though we were married. We could have done it married long before we did. We just didn't. And that was me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got nothing to add.
I waited a very long time, and I wasn't in any hurry, and I never really was the type who really wanted to be married. I never went through that. I grew up in a family. I had older siblings, but 7 younger, and I was often responsible for those kids. And so my thought of getting married wasn't because I wanted to have children. So whether I was married or not, it didn't matter if I was in a good relationship. That was my view.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because that is definitely a factor for women who feel like I need to hurry up and get married because I do want to have kids by a certain point. There's a biological clock that I'm up against. But as someone who had decided at some point in your life, you're like, I don't want biological kids of my own. So maybe that took the pressure off of you to just focus on quality versus a timeline.
Yeah, and it wasn't actually a decision like I don't want to have kids, but I think people who really know they want them, that they're driven for that. I didn't feel that. And, I think that it fulfills a lot of people, and it would, I'm sure, have added to my life. I mean, my nieces and nephews, I all just love them to death, but it just didn't happen. So, and I'm okay with that. But it didn't mean that I had to get married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you didn't feel pressure from, some people feel pressure from their families or church or whatever other things to, with comparison.
I'm from a family full of divorce.
Okay.
Some siblings once, some twice, some 3 times. And my thought was, if that's what it's going to, and I'm from it wasn't a very functional family, but my thought was, I don't really think you have to have marriage in order to succeed in a relationship. So, and it was hardly even a conscious thought. It was more subconscious, but I wasn't driven to do that. So I was in my 40s before I got married.
Interesting. And did it take like a lot of persuading on his behalf to be like, let's sign this contract, let's get married? Or were you didn't have like a thing against marriage? It was just kind of like, it just never came up for you? Or
Oh, it came up. No, Brian proposed. Well, Brian made sure when we were having our discussions that I knew how hard of a marriage that he had, and that he wasn't very interested in it.
More booze, please.
Yeah.
And that
Some
marriage
wine.
just wasn't on his mind. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. And
Yeah.
so a few years went on,
That's right.
and he was kind of declaring this marriage thing was so difficult. And then all of a sudden, with no warning, he was proposing to me. And I'm like,
warning.
whoa, just a minute here.
You're supposed to warn me.
I got a good deal on a ring,
Yeah,
but
no. So anyhow, some time went by, and then I knew that. I knew that I was going to be with him forever, so then why? The level of commitment.
Wait,
for
at what
marriage.
point did you know this, that you're going to be with him forever?
tell me more.
Brian's like, I'm learning too.
Yeah. No, we had been together
You know when it's
7, 8
working.
years before
You know.
we
Okay.
decided
Yeah,
to get married.
Yeah, you know when
Yeah.
it's working.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was working.
Question, because I asked one person this question, like, how did you know that she was the person that you want to get married to? And he said, things are just easy. Like, so many people are looking for easy. I hear this response a lot. Like, the guy, he's a person that I once worked with or whatever. We were just catching up, and he was like, oh, by the way, since we last chatted, I've gotten married. I was like, good for you, congratulations. But I know he had dated a bit beforehand. And I was like, so how'd you, because I had met his previous girlfriend. He's a great guy. And I was like, well, how did you know that this one that you're with is the one that you want? And he's like, well, it was just felt very easy. Everything was very easy.
I think maybe another word could be comfortable too.
Okay.
I think another word is natural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
natural,
Just-
complimentary.
Yeah, complimentary.
Yeah.
It's not easy per se, but I think that's the word.
Yeah, it's still not easy,
well,
even in the good relationships.
Yeah, but
there's
when all
always
those things
challenges.
are clicking, those words we just used, when that's all
Yeah.
clicking, then it's easy.
The trust
It
and the
really is.
respect and the friendship and the
It's like there's no doubt
communication.
about it.
Every day shouldn't be a challenge.
No kidding.
It needs to be natural.
Challenges come up, but they
Yeah.
don't need to be every day.
Right.
I mean, like, you want one every decade, big challenge.
Right.
That's a lot, but you can work through it.
Good, because this is going to roll into one of the first things that we talked about
next
yesterday.
question?
Yeah,
Okay.
was what is like one. There are many aspects of a healthy relationship, but one key aspect of a successful relationship that you think is important in your relationship. Yesterday, we talked about a few different factors, but is there one that stood out for you guys that you'd like to talk about that has been really significant or important in growing and building your relationship together?
I liked what Dave said. He
Yeah.
said friendship first.
Yeah.
Right.
And I agree
Susan's
with
my
that.
best friend.
Yeah.
I can say that
So-
too, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
And
I didn't mean Susan. I'm sorry.
well, that person's a great friend too, but
You're
No,
being so
okay.
serious.
Sorry, Nancy's
You
my
gotta tone it
I'm
down.
okay, I'll shut up.
well, I'm trying not to play off you.
Oh yeah, I know, man. This is
No,
what
We know
we do
you
that.
want to.
Drinking buddy. Yeah.
and I think that friendship is extremely important to me, and I highly, highly value friendship because I think we all have maybe 5 or 10 people that we know who are at that level. We know a lot of people. Now, you and I, in the business world that we were in, we knew a lot of people.
Tons of people.
Yeah,
But if there were 5 or 10 who I would elevate to that level of saying, these are my friends, I would do anything for them, I would go anywhere for them,
You're probably still in touch with them all.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
yeah. But she is my best friend, and that's important to
After
me,
all those
so,
years.
So.
Very sweet.
Okay, interesting. But you guys, and you guys did start off with a friendship element first
Right.
before
Yeah.
you started dating. And you guys started dating right away. And I actually like this because it happens both ways.
No, just hanging out together. I mean, was it date? Would you call it dating? I mean, we're
Yeah,
like go for
yeah.
a walk or go to a movie or something like that.
yeah, you'd
I
call me
guess
up and-
dating.
yeah.
All right.
He
okay.
asked you out.
It was a planned thing. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. So dating. Yeah. Right away.
But not serious.
Okay.
no.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, we were taking our time intentionally.
And you
Okay.
could pull the ejection seat anytime you wanted. I mean,
Yeah,
But I
always
think
gave
that
me
goes
away.
back to being friends. You say, we had shared some of our background to say, I really like being with you, but if it doesn't work for you, I care enough about you as my friend
there you go.
that you should go and find where you can be happy. If you can't be here, you should go find it.
That's yeah.
Because-
you're taking the high road there.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
I just think that's really important.
So it sounds like you always had each other's best interests in mind.
Totally.
Even from the beginning, way before marriage, you guys were always thinking about the other person's best interests.
How could you not?
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm going to add to it. We talked before about like shared values, and
Yeah.
I really believe is as important as a friendship. But something else that's crossed my mind with this is probably just as important, and that is coming into a relationship, a longer-term relationship. Have you as an individual come to terms with your aloneness versus loneliness. And if you can, as a person, really feel confident about aloneness, and you take that into any relationship, I think it'll get you a long way. But if you haven't worked through that,
If you need to be with someone.
yeah, I mean, I am a believer that every person at some point in their life, and sometimes it's earlier through a divorce, or sometimes it's later in life because of the death of a spouse. Every single one of us are going to be alone. We will.
Yeah.
That's a given. And it might be short term or longer term, but we still have to come to terms with that aloneness and who we are as a person.
I always remember I saw a term, and it was, I don't remember where I saw it or the story behind it, other than couples who are not communicative, they aren't in a good relationship, they don't have that friendship, and they call it alone together. And that's just the saddest
It is
thought.
very
The
sad.
saddest thought.
I think there's something about, then there gets to be the ability to be alone and okay with that. You have to look at who you are and
Yeah.
how you're
Yeah.
made up. I mean, one of the things I did by myself, I went to the Boundary Waters in a canoe by myself with the dog and was gone for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Her
I
sister
didn't have
You had a lot of
anybody to
time.
talk to but the
Just-
dog, and
right.
the dog didn't care. But it was okay being alone.
You can be introspective then.
Yeah.
And
That's what your sister just did.
she did.
She did a Camino.
a 500-mile walk alone
Yeah.
through Spain.
And so when you can do that with yourself, then you take that strength into your relationships.
Yeah, but have you personally explored that though? I mean, like, that aloneness.
I have explored it, lived it as a single parent, and raising kids on my own, and being, the only person providing income, you know, and the survival
I get
of
it.
that.
And
Yeah.
the challenge
And
of
the
it.
challenge
That's
of that.
that's a big challenge. I mean,
And I think it's important. I'm glad I got to experience that for all the pain of it. I'm glad I had it because I knew more about who I was and what I really
And
wanted.
maybe what you
As-
wanted the next time.
Yeah,
so as much pain as it was, it became a beneficial
absolutely.
exploration of a part of your life, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it was like a self-development phase is what you're recommending, is that people get comfortable getting to know themselves, and kind of working on themselves if they need to, but feeling confident and comfortable with themselves before you're trying to rush into a relationship.
Well, I think the self-development is lifelong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to go on forever.
Right.
And I think it's going to evolve with different people and different relationships. But I think if you're in a relationship and you're not sure, or gosh, I guess we've been together, we might as well get married, or you know, you're just kind of looking for, now what do I do next? That to me would be an indicator that you're not there yet, and you're not comfortable with who you are and your strengths as an individual. And so just give it time.
Well,
And I think you'll see people in relationship after, or marriage after marriage, because instead of taking the time to figure that out and to search and what they want and who they want,
Who they are.
they need to be with someone. It's
Yeah.
just they need to be with someone.
Yeah.
Right.
They're codependent.
Yeah.
And I think another really important part of that is knowing where your role models fit into
That's huge.
the relationships that you're in and how you go into relationships and how they affect them. And
Oh, yeah.
because if you don't understand that, you're going to very much mimic it.
Yeah.
And whether it's healthy or not.
Yeah, so role models such as like your parents that you grew
Through
up,
and through.
and even
Maybe older siblings.
exactly
Yeah.
how
Or your friends.
yeah. So getting
Who you're hanging out with
Yeah.
True.
and what they're doing
Yeah.
and what pressures they might be putting
exactly
on
and
each
their
other.
biases. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
reflecting on the relationships that you see in the past and just seeing where those patterns might be showing up in your own relationships currently, and choosing what not to continue. They call them like generational traumas that get passed on. Like
Right.
if you grew up in a home that had a lot of domestic violence, for example, you might normalize it. So
Or you
in
may
your
become a domestic violencer.
or you
Yes.
might accept it as like, oh, this is a normal part of
Exactly.
a relationship.
Exactly.
I saw it growing up, so okay. So yes, I strongly agree with what all of you guys are saying, is that there is a lot of value in understanding, like connecting the dots for your, like, who did I learn relationships from, and are those relationships that I want to mirror, or do I want to do different behaviors? Do I want to change that thought pattern? Do I want to change that way of feeling and being in relationships? So yeah,
Right.
there's feeling
And
that.
I've seen it called your family of origin. Mm-hmm. How does it affect you?
Yeah, and then so the research that I've done over the last few years, just because I'm a nerd and I love psychology, so there's been this, there's a study or a theory called attachment theory. It's been around for like 60 years now. But it's just in recent years that it's started to gain popularity because of social media, and we just have more outlets now that can like promote certain ideas and topics. So a lot of people are now understanding that there is a huge connection. The whole attachment theory space is based off of like your formative years in the first 3 to 5 years of your life. That's when you learned how to be in relationships, by observing, and that's where you built your confidence or lack thereof, because how your parents treated you, whether it was I'm a person of value or not of value to this family, stays with you in all of your relationships moving forward. And also how you observed your parents or caregivers. In some cases you might not have parents, you may have been raised by grandparents or others, how you observe their dynamics with each other and also with you. Like you learned in your first 5 years, okay, this is what it means to be a human, and a human that interacts with other humans. That's where you learn your the beginnings of your communication style and all of this. And unless you actively like try to unlearn certain things that you may realize later on are not serving you, you'll just carry on those patterns because that's how you learned it. That's
And
how
it's the easiest thing to do. It's hard to make changes. It's easy to not recognize that and make the changes. But once
How
you
do you see it in yourself, though?
you might see your
it's-
relationships not working out, and you don't know why, and you start examining why, or you
Through the
start
patterns.
you start seeing patterns in your siblings.
So
or-
there is, like, I mean, you can go to some therapists that are knowledgeable about it, but there
just
are,
going to a
yeah.
therapist means you're acknowledging that there's something
Yeah.
that is not.
The reality is that a lot of people, from like the research that I've done on it and just what I've seen in the various people that I've met throughout my life, is that many people go through life without even knowing that they have this issue, and they end up, unhappy at the end of their life, and maybe they didn't have meaningful relationships, or unhappy relationships, or no relationships. In some cases, you almost just want to avoid all relationships because you're like, oh, these are headaches. I don't want to deal with these kinds of stresses in my life.
I know people
Well,
like that.
and
yes.
it
Yeah,
is
and we can't
possible.
fix that here.
Oh no, we're not fixing that today. No, I'm not talking about, like, that's not what we're talking about. But just to answer your point, is that some people go through life and they never change their patterns, and some people at some point take a hard look at, am I getting the results that I want in my life? No, and then they do a lot of self-reflection
Exactly.
through various means, and they're like, I do need to change something. What is it? Oh, it's these patterns, or this way of interacting with people or communicating with people, and I make the conscious choice it's going to be weird doing things in a different way that I'm used to, but I'm choosing to, because I know that's going to get me to the goal that I want versus what I've
And
been
I
doing.
think that opens up, and maybe it should open up the person to some help in counseling in order to figure some of those things out, because you may be blind to some of the things that can be pointed out to you with some professional help.
Yeah, but also, one thing I don't like is that people kind of just say, "Oh, just go to therapy." That's kind of like a cure-all. I do think that there are good therapists and not so good therapists. So definitely, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about therapy, do some shopping around and find the right therapist for you.
Talk to people, see who has
Get
some
recommendations and such. Because some therapists, you just end up paying bills and nothing comes out of it.
Right.
No outcomes come from
Right.
it. So do some referral research and things like that. But back to our topic.
Okay.
You were saying,
Where are we at?
So you were.
Question 3.
Oh,
Okay.
well, one thing that you were saying too that I wanted to quickly touch on was, you were talking about like spending time alone. There has been some talk. Well, not really. It's kind of just. I'm noticing a lot of influencers are speaking in this way. It's like, date yourself. Just date yourself. Like, if you're single, just go out there and date yourself. And maybe that's a little bit of what you're getting
What
at.
does
like,
that mean?
It's confusing to some people, but
You
according
mean
to
be
them,
with yourself and see
be
how
with
that
yourself.
goes. I got it.
The way that they're positioning it is like, get comfortable going to dinner by yourself, or going to a concert by yourself, or
What does that
enjoying your own
accomplish?
time,
With that.
doing
I would
self-care.
agree with that.
Yeah.
There's
So-
a lot of people who cannot do that, who
Yeah.
couldn't go to the movie theater by themselves.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
not comfortable with that.
Or
I agree.
dinner being
Or to dinner.
a nice restaurant, where you're going to be seated at a table by yourself
Right.
But is
and
that
feel that
And it used to
aloneness.
be, especially for females, that
Right.
was
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah.
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 I agree. But is that a prerequisite then to like get to that level of comfort before you're ready to date someone? Is that what you were getting at before, or I was just a
I
little
don't know that
confused?
I'd consider it a prerequisite as much as if you're not comfortable with that part of being alone.
If you can't do that.
If you can't do it, it doesn't hurt to put yourself out there.
Or maybe another spin on what you were saying might be also just don't rush into relationships just because you feel you need to have someone around you to feel comfortable, like a safety blanket.
Right.
Like, be okay with also being by yourself rather than choosing the wrong person to be with.
Right, and I think it's also you want that relationship that you choose to be in to be strengthened by who you are, the compliments that you're bringing to it. But you don't want to be so dependent on that person to hold you up.
That's the word, is dependent. The
You
codependent
do
side.
not want that.
Yeah,
you know,
because
and
it's hard to exist on
if
your own
you're-
if you have that.
Yeah, and if you're expecting that other person, oh, I can't go out for dinner tonight because they're not available. Well, gosh, if you want to go out for dinner tonight, you should go
Right.
and find that. Find it within yourself to do that.
I did read about this too. Is like somewhere along all my reading, they're like, what you want to get to is like an interdependence, where it's like you can be independent on your own.
Yes.
You're not codependent. It's not like
Right.
I need to have this person with me all the time. You can be interdependent and then come together, but then also do your separate things as well.
Yeah,
Like have your
so
own-
that each couple, you have that interdependence, but you also have some independence
Yeah, oh,
in
yeah.
your friends or what you do with some of your time, not all of your time. So you have your own interests and your own friends, and then you come together again.
So
I
you-
think that's very healthy.
You
Yeah.
feel like your relationships have that an element of interdependence.
Certainly.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I travel,
And
in some of the work that I have done, there's 20 years of that work experience that I traveled a lot. And when, I could be gone for a couple of days, I could be gone for 3 or 4 days, but I was never gone for weeks at a time. So you're flown into a town that you don't know anything about, and you're there for meetings the next day or the next couple of days, and so you're going to go to dinner by yourself. And I can tell you that after a while, I got tired of just go to restaurants and having big dinners, and I've met some of the most interesting people just going sitting down at a counter in a restaurant on a stool and
Isn't that
talking
fun?
to the person next to me. And,
Yeah.
It's
they
actually
were
how we
traveling
met
and
you
they were
two.
by themselves.
Yeah, that's how we met you guys.
Up on the road. We were
Oh, really?
some
Yeah.
friends, and they came up with a bottle of wine, and we
Just sat
said, "Why
down.
don't you join us?"
Yeah.
And that's how we got to know these guys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
So,
European.
I mean, you have to allow yourself to be open to that.
Absolutely.
But if I were to say, well, I'll just have room service, send up a meal, and
You're closing
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
off.
So put yourself out there to be visible and to meet people.
And if you were
Yeah.
traveling when you were married, then you were at home alone probably then during that time. I kind of welcome that time, not in a bad way.
Brian's sitting right next to you.
Brian,
I can hear you talking.
I said not in a bad way, but he's going to be gone in January. I'll be just fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be have
You will
all
be
kind.
fine.
I'll be busy.
This is so interesting. Go ahead.
You do value that time.
Yeah,
You do.
You do.
because I have known more than one friend who, once they get in a relationship, they forget about their friends. It's just like they're all into that person, and once they break up, it's like, oh wow, they're back. They're
Yeah.
now my friend again. I'm like, and then it makes me as a friend feel like how close of friends are
How
we then?
valuable are you?
If I'm so replaceable and forgettable. But it's not just me. I know they do it to like other people too. But a lot of people do that. It's like they go all in into a relationship, 100% of their time. Any spare moment that they have, if it's not at work, it's with this person that they newly met. It's like their new shiny toy. And then when that doesn't work out, or sometimes it does work out, and I don't know. I mean, I lose
Why would
touch
you
with
give
those
up
people.
why would you give up your
But-
individual self? I mean,
But I'm curious
what she's talking
for
about.
from your perspective, is that healthy? Because there's so many people who are probably going to listen to this and think, oh yeah, I'm that kind of a person. When I meet someone, it's like they become my whole world, and then I think it almost sets you up for like devastation later when like if it doesn't work out, then like how massive is that heartbreak? They became your everything. They became the only person you confide in, your only friend, your only confidant, your only everything. Like
I think it's going to be in the beginning a little bit of that, but not giving up the friends or having it be only that.
no.
But you get kind of caught up in it a bit. In
that
the
could be
first,
an
in the first
experiential
part
kind
of
of
the
thing.
relationship.
In that, if you're young enough into this life scene, that you don't know that 20 years from now or 30 years from now, life will be different
Yeah.
than you are today.
Right.
And you can't cut yourself off to that point to the rest of the people that you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to develop your own little circle of friends, you know, for different activities, and each, like, she might be into gardening and join a gardening club, and that's cool, and I got a running group or whatever. I mean, you develop those things apart from each other, and that's absolutely
I think
fine.
the red flag would be is if that's all the time.
Oh, yeah, that's
that
true.
That you have almost separate lives. That's a red flag.
But I would also question if you find yourself in a relationship where you're both spending all that time together and you're losing the other relationships. My question
Well,
would
that's
be
a great-
around where is this influence coming from? Is
Yeah.
it coming from myself? Is it coming from the person I'm with? Is it coming
pressure
from
from
peers?
them.
am I hanging out with friends that this is what they've done, so now we think it's normal and that's what we're supposed to do in the relationship? I would question all of that.
Thank you for that, because in all the nerdy research that I've done, so narcissists, for example, it's actually really interesting to your point. Assess, do we have an interdependence, or am I kind of being forced to be codependent on this person? Because there are people who have narcissistic type qualities who their goal is to eventually kind of like control you, so they do want to separate you from your family, your friends, so that you become dependent on them. They become your savior, so be careful of that. But there's also, so aside from them wanting to pull you away, like there's also so many studies out there that just say relationships just work better when you do have a diverse support group around you, that your partner's not bearing all of that weight of all of your stress from your day-to-day life, or you're only confident, like that's too much weight on one person. Even if it is voluntary from your end, like, oh, I know I really want to invest in you, you're putting too much stress on that one person, and that can in some cases be the reason why there's a breakup or divorce or whatever. It's just like, I'm overburdened in this relationship. So it sounds like one aspect of why you guys, probably many aspects, but one aspect is this balance, this interdependence that you guys have been successful at creating in your relationships, giving a healthy amount of we're together, but then we also have a little bit of independence to do our own interests and things, and have additional friendships and things outside the relationship.
With the encouragement of the partner.
Right.
They encourage
Yes.
that. And if they can't encourage that, then that's
a flag.
It's unhealthy.
Yeah. So two people who understand the value of interdependence. Is
Susan
a good
and I
thing.
are problem solvers. I mean, that's one of the things that we share in our work careers, in our life. We have solved multitudes of problems, big and small. So when there is, quote unquote, a problem, we can talk about that and say, what are the alternatives? What do you think here? So that's that brainstorming kind of process that feeds on each other, and it says, well, I think this, and you say, oh, I never thought of it that way. What if we did something like that looked like that? And you say, well, now we're going someplace. No, the problem is not big anymore. It's starting to shrink because we're coming up with a solution.
And that's at any level, like, pick out a couch together, right?
So tell me if this is accurate, because also things that I've read is the best couples that work out are the ones when there's an issue, it's them against the problem, not them against each other.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
that's exactly
that's-
right.
We've been through a lot, and you just talk and talk and talk and talk, and eventually, at least we just finally come together on what is it that we can both live with, what's the compromise, what's the best solution. And we seem to always be able to do that. It takes some time sometimes. Sometimes we're out walking and walking and walking, talking about things, but we always get there.
Yeah, and I think like where some conflicts can become almost like explosive or erosive to your relationship is when you do start like one or both people look at each other as the enemy. Like, no, I'm trying to win. No, I'm trying to win at this.
That doesn't
That's
work.
the me or us.
Yeah, and it sounds like another aspect of why you guys are successful is because you're teaming together, partnering together in a true partnership to solve an issue. You're not trying to attack, because that's what a team is. It's like you all work together towards a common goal versus working against each other to win against each other. That's not a team anymore.
Right, and sometimes one of us will go, okay, let's do that, what you want to do. And sometimes the other person says that. It's not always we're right in the middle. Sometimes it's like, all right, I can live with that.
Yeah, it's a give and take.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I'll compromise a little today,
100%.
you'll compromise a little next time, whenever.
Yeah.
And we do something similar with compromising, but if we're trying to come up with the best solution, we might say, because this is how it's going to affect me, I get 2 votes and you get 1, or vice versa.
No,
you get 2.
And we do
verbalize
we
it
do
that
that. We
Depends on-
verbalize it that
makes
way.
sense.
Like if
You mean if something affects you more strongly than him, if the decision will
Not
affect you
that
more
you
gravely?
feel more strongly
No.
about it, it's how it's going to affect you.
Right,
Okay.
and how it might affect the other person once the decision is made. If it's
Okay.
going to have a greater impact on Dave, then he might get 2 votes and I get 1.
So it's
I
like
If
a
we can
weighted.
look at it and say, we have to make this decision, and one of us is going to feel it more and have a greater impact.
Yeah.
So we need to weight the votes, and we do that.
So
Do
we never
you?
verbalized
I
it.
never thought
We've
about
never
that.
verbalized it that way. But one of us will sometimes say, "Well, that has to be your decision because that's going to be, harder on you, or that's going to affect you more."
Yeah.
But we
Interesting.
never quite did it that way.
I didn't get the 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you guys, when you are solving problems, you're also considering, you're having empathy, you're considering how much graver it's going to be for the other person, or inconvenient, or whatever it is, how much
could
more
you not?
adverse
You have
it's
to do
going
that.
to.
Well,
Because some people are selfish in relationships. They're only thinking about,
Yeah.
like, how is this impacting me? There's so many there are a lot of me people in relationships.
Yeah, but,
and so it seems like for a relationship that works out for a while and is fulfilling, you have to also be considering yourself in the other person's shoes. Is whatever we're talking about right now, is it more important to them? Is it more consequential to them? If so, I have to let them have a little bit more say in this than
How can you-
Or make the final decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a
I
me
like
thing
that.
versus...
Like your opinion matters. You
Yeah.
have to have it. But when we look at how this impacts the whole dynamics
Right.
of the relationship and our life and lifestyle,
Yeah.
sometimes you weight it.
It's a me thing or it's an us thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so, yeah.
So- This folds over into the next question, which was, and this might be one of the last questions, because I appreciate your guys' time on this. This is like a master class.
oh,
Well, it's
no.
almost-
But so my last question will be, when is like, has there been an event in your relationship that was, again, a very consequential event, and how did you overcome that together? It could have, I remember a couple years ago, they were also they had been married maybe 30 years plus. And they mentioned that a pivotal point in their relationship where they almost considered divorcing was how they dealt with the death of their child. They had an adult son who had passed away due to an accident, and that really tested their marriage. They had to go through a lot of couples counseling and other things like that, and just, a very emotional time, a very turbulent time in their relationship. For others, it might be a health scare or something. Are any of you guys open to sharing an event that happened that was significant in your relationship and how together you worked as a couple to overcome it? And what was it that helped you overcome it? Was it a compromise? Was it, what tool did you use to overcome that event?
I'll just jump on that one to start with. I was diagnosed about a year and a half ago with Parkinson's disease. First of all, I didn't know much about Parkinson's disease. Being problem solvers, we dug into all kinds of information, read all kinds of materials, to the point that I probably spent 3 or 4 months really feeling depressed, because you can't get healed from it, and it will ultimately kill you. And so those being the ultimate choices, I can't have it removed, I can't put a splint on it to heal it. It's going to kill me if it does, if I don't die of something else. So it was a matter then of saying, okay, I will have to figure this out. So we learned what it was about. We understood what it was. What can you do? What can't you do? And then I compartmentalized with Susan what we can't do. There are just some things we can't. So we will have to plan for a time when I can't do that. This is where she gets 2 votes, because it will impact her way more than it will impact me.
Yeah.
Because I won't know her name. I won't know any of you. I will need help getting up from a bed. I will need help going to the bathroom. I will need someone to bathe me. she can't do that, and I don't want that for her. Right. So we have created a life plan that talks about where we're going and what we're going to do, and that's part of the thing we're traveling right now.
Yeah.
So when I can't,
Sure.
we have done that. I have a healthcare directive that specifically identifies the steps that I want to be able to take. And so that was a really difficult time, probably most difficult time, I think, in our relationship. And part of it's saying goodbye. So.
Sharing that.
I would agree. It's with all of that, it was, being with him through that time of depression, which was very deep, but also both of us grieving our lifestyle changes and the abrupt disruption and all kinds of things. You can have the best hopes and dreams, but they don't always work out and fall into place. And being able to work through that and grieving together is hard. Really a difficult thing to do. And doing that and just being able to talk about it and giving each other space.
Yeah, I found out that I got to talk about it. I just share it with you because I don't want to keep it in. I want to get rid of it, but I can't.
Yeah.
But the more I can talk to you and others about it, at least I share it and I get it up. It's kind of like throwing up, I guess.
Seems like
I
a
get
healthy
rid of
thing
it.
to do,
Well,
rather than keep it all in.
When we told the kids, it was like, we're going to talk openly about it, and sometimes you're going to be uncomfortable, but we will never allow this to be the elephant in the room.
I remember when we met you, you told us right away, and you guys had a conversation that night because, Brian has his stuff too.
Yeah, and so it was like, we need to be out there with this so that we're not feeling that just the two of us and then go home and feel like we can't talk to anybody.
Or
about
suddenly there's a change and nobody
like,
knew anything
you
about
shouldn't
it.
ask us questions because maybe they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
No, we're happy to talk about it.
Right.
And we have met people who are far more severe in this disease than I am. And when I see them, I say, God, how lucky I am not to be there.
Don't you? Yeah, every day.
I may be
like,
there someday,
Right.
but there's things I want to do before I get there. So.
A lot to process, though.
So therefore, I have two votes.
But it sounds like when you're dealing with something big, don't keep it to yourself. Like, please include the other person if they're part of your life.
Yeah.
Include them in that big event. Be honest about how it's affecting you in the very multifaceted ways that event is affecting you. Process your feelings together and then create a plan for how to address it together.
And let the people who can support you
Let them
too,
know.
when you're ready to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Because you need a support system
Right.
outside of each other.
Right.
If it's a very big event,
Yeah.
And the kids, like I said, all our kids know, my grandkids know, so it's,
So they can
Just what
ask
it
you
is.
about it or talk to you about it and be comfortable
if
about
they
it.
wanted to, we
Yeah.
could sure talk about it. So.
Thank you for sharing that.
You bet.
It's really beautiful.
So
I'm
so
sorry
I threw
that
up
that's
over here on the
happened.
floor.
But no, that's a really
so sometimes
great
I think something like
example.
that will tear a couple apart.
Yes.
Or it brings them
Yes.
closer
Easily could.
together.
It could
Yeah.
easily have done
And
that.
you
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
I was
are more together.
I was sharing yesterday with this group how I remember hearing a story of a contestant that went on a singing competition, and she was fairly young, and she had been diagnosed with cancer, and at that time is when her husband chose to leave her. It became too much for him to deal with her sickness, so she of course was left devastated. Not only is she in a difficult health situation, but she also lost the love of her life, and so it's almost like a double whammy for her. So not having a supportive partner is extra hard in those type of situations. Do you guys have any advice for people who might be facing, even if it's like a different form of hardship, like maybe you go through a miscarriage together or something. I know some people who are jerks, and there are some people that are like, oh, she miscarried, I'm just going to divorce her because my goal is to have a kid, and if she failed once, I'm going to go to someone else who's more successful. Like there are people who think about themselves. We talked earlier about people who are me focused in relationships or people who are us focused. Do you have any advice for people who might be facing a challenge in their relationship that's really testing them, whether it's a health thing or something else that's very large? Any advice that you have?
Run.
How to address it? Run? Divorce? Run?
No.
Well, if
How
you're
are you
with somebody
in
and
that?
they're not able, for whatever
Oh, you mean
reason,
run from a non-supportive person?
Absolutely.
Don't run because you've heard that there is a
Yeah.
large boulder in your relationship.
No,
Yeah.
but if they can't be supportive at a low time in your life, if it's not within them to do that, then you
exactly.
deserve so much better that even the pain of getting through that is going to be worth it in the long run than staying and those seeds of doubt have been planted, and I don't know how you ever rebuild that.
I've heard an analogy to your life story, your life journey, is that it's like a road that travels real fast sometimes, or it's really slow because it's curving back and forth. It goes up and down with its challenges, but it's a journey. You just keep on driving. If you've driven from here to the West Coast, you know that you can go fast, you go slow, you go up and down. I mean, that's what being married and that's what life is all about.
Yeah, but how do you bail out on these scenarios that they're talking about? I mean, it gets a little bump in the road, and all of a
It can't
sudden
be a
you
little
can't
bump.
handle it.
If you can't get through a little bump,
Oh,
you
you're not
never
going to
get
get through
through
a
a major
big
bump
one.
You're
like
not,
we've got.
yeah.
So I had a friend who was hospitalized for a long time, a good girlfriend of mine, and her husband was there every morning helping her, getting her breakfast, helping her get cleaned up, everything. And she was in for a long time, and the nurses told her they can tell instantly which couples are going to make it by how the spouses behave when someone's in a situation like that.
Really? That's okay.
Yeah. Well,
I believe that.
I do too.
I do too.
I do.
It's a question, what can I do for you? Right now, the
Right.
Yeah, what
focus
do
is
you
on you.
need?
You need help. What can I
Yes.
do?
What kind of partner
And
are you
it's-
if you back away from that?
And
I don't understand.
It's not something that they expect anything in return for. They're doing it because they want to and they need to help that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like you too. I mean, Nancy did that for me. You know, I mean, I went through hell and back, medically this past year and stuff. And she got me through the whole thing, and couldn't have done it without her. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to navigate any of it, and she was handling the whole thing.
We were
Shit,
living
yeah.
out of the country.
Yeah, in a
Right.
foreign
So
country.
there was a night I had to call an ambulance and had him admitted to the hospital. He had a seizure.
Oh, wow.
And he had been having medical issues, and we weren't getting a diagnosis. He had every possible test you could give him, and he had a seizure one night, and then we got a diagnosis of epilepsy. So that threw us into motion to
Get back here.
yeah, we had a really good neurologist there, but when push comes to shove, for all the criticism you can give to the U.S. medical system, it's really where you want to be when you have something like this going on.
Yeah.
So we had a couple months to give our notice and get packed up and do our pallets and tell the government we were leaving and get an apartment here virtually and do all that.
It's not easy.
No, it was a lot.
And I was pretty
And
banged
Brian
up.
was not in good shape.
Yeah. So yeah, but
But it's what you do. I
Yeah.
mean, so you get
It's
yourself
what
in a
you
better
do.
place.
yeah, it's what you do. I mean, you got to be there for each other. Thick or thin, right? And I mean that's a sign.
And
of,
he felt terrible about it, but he wasn't doing that anything to me. He didn't have control of that. I mean, it's one thing if something is intentional in how they're acting. He wasn't. It was more like what was happening to him.
or happening
So
to
here
us.
to us,
yeah.
yeah. So here we are.
Yeah, so you put it into context, like this is a challenge that neither of you guys signed up for, but you guys are dealing with it together. It's no one is intentionally trying to make each other's lives harder. So knowing that it's something outside of either of your control, you're going to stay and work on it together, kind of a thing.
And there's that saying, you know, if you want to give God a good laugh, tell him you've got plans. You know, it doesn't always go that way.
But all through your entire relationship, you know, there's like, I joked about it earlier, is like, go try to pick out a couch together, you know, and see if you can get, you know, manage that hassle. But it's, you know, the house, it's living accommodations, if you know,
small, big, gigantic.
Yeah,
things
what color are you going to paint the bathroom?
time.
You know, I mean, all of it. You got to. There's this compromise. There's this coming together. There's this solving the problems with each other. I mean, it's just a life journey of you know, compromise. You know, solving and compromising and
So it sounds
it's
like
almost
there's-
continuous without you even realizing
Yeah.
it. Once you've been together for long enough, you know.
If you're natural
Yeah.
in that relationship, you know, then it flows.
And it sounds like there is value in paying attention to the small little things. If you can get over small little things with your partner, like you said, picking out a couch together, or what color do you want to paint the bathroom? If they turn that into like World War III, maybe not the best partner for when something more significant might happen in your
think
relationship.
about it.
But if you guys can get over these little issues, then, you know, no one can predict the future, but, you know, they're giving you little signs that they're still willing to stay with you, work through things together, find a middle ground together, like
Everything.
observe them in the small,
everything.
observe them in the small moments, and that can give you a little bit of an idea of how they might eventually react.
I mean,
in
pick
bigger
any
moments.
topic, like, you know, like you like the Vikings. I mean, like, what if I like the Packers? I mean, any, you know, you just
Wouldn't
like.
that be funny if that's what broke up your relationship?
Yeah,
After everything that's happened?
It was so strong up to that point.
couldn't get past it, man. Like, it's right there in the lawyer papers. You know, I was like, we can't resolve this.
But who gets the season tickets?
Oh, well, that's, you know, lawyers got to divvy that up. Yeah, man.
The lawyer does, because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, this was good stuff. Thank you both, all of you, for sharing just the intimacy of your relationships and the honesty of what it looks like and what's needed to build meaningful relationships in your life that you're proud of. At the end of all of it, there are roller coasters up and down, but you're proud of what you've been through together, and you're still here together. And how special is
Wouldn't have
that?
done it any
That you're
other
doing
way.
it with your best
Thanks for
friend.
having
Yeah.
us.
Thank
So I
you
appreciate
very
you
much.
guys. Cheers to all of you.
Yeah,
Cheers.
cheers. Thanks for the booze. EFQs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little annoyances you say.
Well, no matter how much you love each other,
Yeah.
you're going to annoy each other. And Brian came up with this thing about, I suppose, something that was annoying him about me. And he called it my
EFQ.
EFQ.
What's that?
My endearing fucking qualities. And we both have a lot of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, it goes back and forth because I know I got them, you got them, you know. But it's like, it's endearing.
You know what the
And so
important
do-
part of that
so-
is that you recognize that you have them too, because there are some people that are just like, oh no, the other person's really annoying. I'm fine. The other
No.
person's okay.
No.
Like when you
No, no,
recognize,
no.
like, no, we're both
I
imperfect.
can look in a mirror, you know.
And sometimes when he'll do something, I'll just be like, EFQ, come on.
You had one tonight.
I know.
Yeah. No, but
Kick
it's
you? Is that
no, but you know, it's like, okay, that bugs me, but it's just who you are.
You're living with each other.
Yeah.
So the important thing is that you guys, it sounds like you accept each other for your little flaws
Our
and quirks.
EFQs.
For your EFQs. Do you accept the other person for their EFQs?
We do, but we always point them out.
that's important.
Yeah.
As we wrap up another episode of Connection Artist, I want to express my gratitude to you for listening and exploring how we can all grow and better connect with one another. I created this podcast to support your relationship success and happiness. If you found value in this episode, here's how you can support me and help spread the word about this podcast. First, subscribe to this podcast and share it with 10 friends. If you share this education with 10 people and they share it with 10 people and so on, we can grow this movement of creating a more loving and caring world. If you'd like to show your support on a personal level, visit www.analuca.com. That's ANALUCA. Explore my heart-centric products and education, from poetry books to online courses, art prints to apparel. Every purchase directly enables me to continue producing episodes and sharing these valuable stories and insights with you, because this podcast is not free to create. Please consider buying something I've made with my heart and soul to connect with you. Discover handmade heart-shaped art prints and hoodies featuring my exclusive Crypto Love Drops collection at www.artbyanaluca.com. Read about the inspiration behind these beautiful heart artworks at cryptolovedrops.com. These make really great, unique gifts for your friends, family, and spouse, and serve as a lasting symbolic reminder of your love for them. Or if you enjoy journaling or you'd like to start, get my 15-minute daily guided journal for confident mindset titled Yes, I Can. If you want more stories, buy my poetry book, The People We Meet, available on Amazon or directly on my website, artbyanaluca.com. Just click on the Books tab. Listen to my music album called Reprise on Spotify. Fun fact, the opening music track that you heard on this podcast is actually composed by me and is featured in my music album. If you want to learn how to strengthen your self-worth, get my digital ebook called Well Valued, which features a 30-day blueprint for building self-worth. Or if you're single and want to learn how to assess and find your most compatible dating partner using AI, get my digital course called Well Matched. These products are all designed to strengthen your self-worth and relationships and are all linked in my website, www.analuca.com. Also, don't forget to check out my hand-illustrated apparel line at www.laughs2self.com. I hand-designed really funny, cute illustrations that made me laugh, but also serve the purpose of spreading humor, love, and connection with others. That apparel line of hoodies, t-shirts, and sweaters are exclusively available only on my website, so if you want to wear something unique, check out laughs2self.com. Connect with me on social media for podcast and life updates. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Ana Luca Official. And lastly, if you're based in the United States and would like to be interviewed on the podcast, send me a message at myconnectionartist@gmail.com to potentially join me as a guest on this show in the future. Remember to subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review. It helps a lot in reaching more listeners like you who can benefit from this information. Thank you for being a part of this Connection Artist community. I'm wishing you so much love and happiness in your relationships. Stay tuned for the next episode.